Pahlavi text translated by E.W. West, Part 3, Sikand Gumanik Vigar, Clareton, Oxford University Press, 1885. Chapter 9. Other information about the existence of the competitor, similarly testified by the Dean Card manuscript, Nepik, is here well noted for you. For both this which is written above and that which is written here are all grown from the seed which the glorified Atur Pariyavand Soed, and from the original thanksgiving Spas of the supremely learned Atur Frobog, son of Farrukh Zad himself. The fourth subject, which is from the Dean Card, is about the existence of an opponent of the creatures and of an opponent earlier than the creatures, and is from the exposition of the good religion. That is, a knowledge of the existence of an opponent of the creatures is obtainable from the innermost recesses of the body of man, even to the outermost objects of which sight is susceptible, and beyond those within the certain limits of analogy. The innermost recesses of man are the innermost of life, and are seen through complete observation within the same limits. That is, as ignorance is to erudition, deceit to good disposition, and falsehood to truth. Other defects of the capabilities which are the source of erudition, good disposition, and truth are the opponent, and the cause of the wickedness of the soul. Again, these irregularities of the rules of arrangement of the body within the compass of the body are the opponent and the cause of disintegration of the body. Again, to these, among the emendations, cold is the opponent of heat, dryness is of moisture, and the other doers of mischief are opponents of operations of existence. Within time, darkness is the opponent of light, stench of perfume, ugliness of handsomeness, unsavoriness of savoriness, poison of its antidote, noxious creatures, and the wolf of the well-yielding cattle, and the vile felon, Mar, of the good man. Beyond time, the brigand planets, Gadugan, are the opponents of the work of the divine bestowers. Beyond the knowledge obtainable of all these champions susceptible to sight are those who are within the limits of analogy, and the certain information of multitudes, the demons who are the opponents of the sacred beings. The existence of an opponent before the creation of the creatures, and his coming to the creatures. After the creation of the creatures, and also to the Creator, are presented comprehensibly through reasons which are suitable and presentable, and through the provision of a remedy, a creation which is for a purpose. This one statement, Vakak, possesses 5 arguments, Saman. One is the being presented comprehensibly, one is the being presented through reasons, one is the reasons which are presentable and suitable for that the creation existed. One is the remedy appointed for the creation, and one is the creation of the creatures of the Creator for a purpose. The existence of these 5 arguments is manifest through the creations and achievements themselves. The presenting comprehensibly is wisely arranging the testimony of the effect of the creatures. Through the reasons presented, which are a declaration owing to the same sagacity, the reason obtainable that the creation existed, with the arrangement of the creation so methodically, ought to arise from the suitable state of the creation, and the suitable design of the creation itself possesses the testimony through its appearance. The remedy appointed is a comprehensible and presentable demonstrator, because it becomes a desire of knowledge and an appearance of the desire. The being created for a purpose is manifest through the desire of activity of creation, both severally and naturally. The evidences of the existence of an opponent before the creation of the creatures are many, and one of them is the suitable state of the creation of the creatures, because the limit of suitability is not well fitted for anything except necessity. That which is inferred from suitability is necessity, from necessity haste, and from haste the existence of an opponent who is before the suitable work, which is the creation, the evidence of the coming of the destroyer to the creatures after the creation of the creatures is the formation of the means of the creator for encountering an opponent before the arrival of the opponent, which are omnisciently a provision before the creation by the creator. And there is a demonstration of these same means of the creatures that is prepared, which is the struggling opposed to the opponent through the arrangement of their nature. One duty of the nature of the creatures is the subduing of so much vexation. Their preparation, too, is like a contest that is forming an enemy opposing the opponent, and their natural desire for duty is removing all haste. And verse 45 doesn't have to be interpreted in saying that you don't do things as soon as you can do them. It's that you shouldn't rush things. Verse 28, the testimony of the effect, assuming that the Bazand Awar Dugae of AK stands for the Pahlavi Bar Gokas or Gokasi. M19 has Duvae, and PB3JE have Dusae, while the Sanskrit means about the magnitude. And verse 20, through reasons which are suitable. So in verse 24, in the Sanskrit, through Pazand has obtainable here. And in verse 18, within the limits of analogy, referring to the two kinds of evidence, direct and indirect, mentioned in verses 5 and 6. Islam also has that chaos thing. But analogy is to the revelation and the inspiration. Some people say that the way of the community is source number 3 of religious rule, but I would say analogy comes before that. But philosophy is by method. It's not that you're memorizing quotes and whatnot of philosophers, Verse 17, beyond time, the brigand planets, Gadugan, see chapter 4:10. So Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the lunar nodes in the place where they, they have what eclipses the sun, what eclipses the moon, while the earth, the moon eclipses the sun and the earth eclipses the moon. But it's not the planets itself. Like, you see all this talk about angels of planets. That's what they're really talking about, is there's beings of planets and the pathways between planets, and the pathways representing the pathways in between planets. And verse 1, testified by the Dean Carter manuscript, see chapter 4, 106, 107 for the names in these first two verses. Verse 4, the fourth subject, assuming that the Bazand Ardium, the Sanskrit Balashtho is a misreading of the Pahlavi Arbaum, the first subject. See chapter 2:1, consisted of 3 questions of Mitro Iyar, discussed in chapters 2 to 4. The second subject about the existence of God is contained in chapter 5, 6, and the third subject about the existence of an evil spirit competing with the Creator is debated in chapter 7 and 8. And the good religion, the third book of the Dean card, which treats of a multitude of subjects from the exposition of the good religion, does not appear to contain the materials for this chapter. The author is therefore probably alluding to one of the 2 earlier books which have not yet been discovered. And the objects of which sight is susceptible, assuming that the Pazand Ande Ne for Be, Thum E Vas, Sanskrit Yavat Bigan Asya, stands for the Pahlavi Vad Baratum E Das. And it's to be noted that, the devil was sort of the devil before he was the devil, but he wasn't called the devil before he made those choices, right? But inwardly there was something going on before those choices.